She'll fight for that white gold.
I think it's just you and I.
It is just you and I.
Yeah. Let's
What's up,
go.
everybody?
Let's make it happen.
This is Joe and I. Joe and I feel like that could be a movie title or something. I and Joe.
Yeah.
We're gonna take
Yeah.
some calls today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can take some calls. Let's see who's in the chat. Oh, cool. What's up? Value Electronics, Ripe Wave, Paul. We got Ike. We got Tim in here. We got Box Curb. Where? Oh yeah, I said
Box
Ripe
Curb.
Wave. Yeah. What's up? What's up? So I don't know where. I think Michael said he's doing. I think he's taking family photos.
Family photos today. Yeah.
And Chana, I don't know if he's partying or what. I haven't heard from him in a
No
minute.
sleep till Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope he's alive.
You know what? That's a good point. I'm sure he is.
You think?
He's
Yeah,
probably
we'll
just
see. I should check
sleeping.
up on.
He's resting from all of his partying.
Mm-hmm. So what's up, man? What's new?
Not much, man. Just living the dream, trying to stay awake. Had an interesting day at work today. Wound up not even eating lunch. Just worked. I don't know, man. You ever just get so focused where you're trying to get something done? So my boss was asking me questions, and I don't know. I can't say much about it here, obviously, but like, so I was just trying to get something done, and I worked until about 1, and then I realized, dude, I haven't even gotten up to use the bathroom or eat or anything yet. Like I was just locked in. So yeah. So it's good, but it's also bad.
You could either be in the zone. So for me, it's hard to get into the zone. And so when I'm in the zone, I don't want anybody to take me out of the zone. So like, don't bother me, like food, whatever. Like, no, forget all that. Yeah. I'm staying right in here because it's so hard to get back into it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's my mind. I was like, I need to go eat, but I thought I'm right there, 10 more minutes and let me get to the stopping point. Then 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes turns into
hours. Yeah. Then you realize like it's dark outside and your family's messaging you, asking you where you are because you didn't come home from work yet.
Yeah. I actually thought that was normal. Like what you're saying there. This is not audio related whatsoever, but
no, it's not. Yeah.
I thought that was normal, because that's kind of how I work. I just get into the zone and I'll just like work like crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that might be some like some ADHD stuff right there because you get hyper focused.
It could be.
I think that's one of the things. I'm like, oh, all right.
It affects people differently. I think I've told you that it affects me. If I don't take medication for it, then it's harder for me to focus. But I could take a medication for it a while back.
Yeah.
But yeah, every once in a while, man, I'll just hit the ground running. And I'm like, I got to get this done. And I don't look up until I'm hangry. I start getting hangry. That's how I know I've got to stop and eat because I straight up turn into a diva, man. I'm a total jerk when I'm hungry. I say things that I regret.
I'll not pee for a long time. So like,
dude, I'll pee my pants. I'll just wear a diaper sometimes. Anyway, enough about that. How's your? I saw you had a new video today. I haven't watched it yet, obviously, because I've been busting my butt at work. But
do you watch?
I did see that you had it. Yeah,
you do.
I do. Yep.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
What's the one you want to have before that? I think I even mentioned it to you. It was wasn't another? No, it was a Heiko. That's the one I remember watching most recently. Yeah, I'll watch them. So here's the thing: even when I don't watch a video, like I do this for my brother-in-law. He does a live stream and he does other stuff. If I like somebody and I want to support them, I'll at least play it and then just let it run while I'm doing something else. So they'll get the ad revenue. They'll get those. I'll like it without even watching the whole thing. It's just, if I want to support the channel, that's what I do. I think that's what everybody should do, even if you don't have time to watch it, rather than piss and moan like I had some people doing this weekend. Oh, it's an hour and a half long interview. I'm like, dude, just freaking watch the video or don't. It's free. Nobody's holding a gun to your head to make you watch the content that I'm putting out there for free.
What makes you what keeps your attention, I guess? Let's say with audio related.
Man, honestly,
like, anything?
I'll be honest with you, not really. It's hard because the way I think, like if somebody's doing a review, like I said, I'll watch yours, I'll watch Michael's, I'll watch Chana's mostly AVR, so I don't really watch AVR stuff. But for the most part, other reviewers, I don't really watch them because I think at some point I'll review it and I don't really care what they say.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like egotistical, but that's just the honest truth. So
Yeah. I
I mean,
mean,
if I want true insight, then I'll watch it. But if I know I'm going to review it myself, then I'm going to have that hands on, and I've got other things I need to get done. But still, to support their channel, I'll queue it up and let it play. But a lot
yeah.
of times too, I'll just let stuff play while I'm driving to work. You know, as long as it's not something I have to watch, I can listen to it.
What's a type of review, that audio review, that you just refuse to watch, or you just can't?
So, well, I don't want to name names, but I
No
did try
names,
to
no names,
watch.
just a type.
Yeah. No, I did try to watch, and this is a lot of them are like this, and it's
Okay.
okay. I know like people like it, so I'm not bashing it. This is just a personal thing before anybody
No
goes
hate.
off the rails.
No hate.
Yeah, no
Straight
hate,
up.
no hate. There is a guy that I watched. I used to watch, and I quit watching him,
Mm.
and I watched him again, and I'm not kidding, dude. Every other word, I was just like, the cynic in me was like, what the heck does that even mean? Like, what does that mean? I can't remember the words that he was using, but it was like somebody just propped up a thesaurus next to him and he said, that one looks good. I'm gonna use that one, you know? I'm like, what does that even mean? How does that relate to anything audio related? But whatever. So
Yeah. No, I assume that you probably don't watch my reviews, you
I
know?
always watch them.
No, honestly, just because I just figure like you're already doing the hardcore, like, objective measurement, like you're taking it to the next level of, you know, just like really accurate measurements, right? So
Yeah.
I'm over here doing like just whatever measurements just to kind of get an idea, right?
Right.
So I was like,
I don't know. I like your input though. I mean, we're friends, right? I'm not just kissing your
sure.
butt, but I like I like watching your videos. You have a really good style. That sing one you did, I think the first sing one you did, there were 3 or 4 lines in there while I laughed out loud. Like
Ah,
it was so good, and I thought that's the kind of video that I wish I could make. But you know, if I have the ability to do it, I haven't tapped into it yet. I don't know where it is. So I'm going to say that I
no.
don't think I have the ability to do those kind of videos, but I appreciate them. And that's what I enjoy watching, you know. But as far as like somebody's opinion on how something sounds or something like that, then obviously I'm not really that interested because I know I'm going to have the chance to hear it myself at some point, and
Yeah.
or I'll see the measurement somewhere. It'll give me an idea. Um, but yeah, that's kind of
I'll
it for
tell
me.
you. So I'll tell you my honest opinion of your reviews, like right here on Daily HiFi,
Okay.
right? So at first, I'm always gonna be like, this is how it goes almost all the time. So
Okay.
almost everything I watch on 2x is just the way I watch everything, right? And so I'm like, all right, I don't really care about these particular speakers he's reviewing, right? It's just I'm not gonna buy them. I'm probably never gonna review them, whatever.
Right.
But you get into it, and I almost always watch to the end, like
Well, that's
from
cool.
beginning to end, like, and especially this the recent one, Greg Timbers, right?
Yeah.
So
Timbers.
I I had no intention. I'm like, honestly, I don't know who this guy is. I looked at the title. I'm like, JBL. Okay, I don't really know who he is. Whatever, you know.
Right.
And then I started watching, and I had to watch the whole thing. I stopped what I was doing. I watched the whole thing from beginning to end. And so I'm like, man, that's crazy. So you're doing something right. Your
Well, I
channel seems to be
appreciate that.
blowing up. You're getting a lot more views on your most recent videos. So you must have figured something out.
I guess, man. I don't know. I do wish I could make them look better, but I just don't have the time. I threw up some gray stuff behind me, and I'm like,
Mm.
it looks kind of tacky, but I don't know. One of these days, I'll try to figure out how to make them look better. But for now, I'm just happy to do what I'm doing.
I do
It's
that
fun.
because I don't spend the hours and hours that you do measuring and making the
Right.
measurements perfect. So that time
Right.
I spend on making it look better. Right.
Yeah.
So we started the discussion before we went on air. I'm like, man, I don't like people being so much smarter than me, but I feel like you're smarter than me. But you know,
At some things,
like
maybe.
we're saying, at
Right.
certain things, right? It's
Yeah.
just we all
Absolutely.
spend our time differently. Like there's a
Absolutely.
certain amount of time in the day, and you chose to do this thing,
Right.
and I
Right.
chose to do this and this other thing. And so maybe when it comes to the other thing, maybe I can do
Well, I
that
mean,
one other thing better.
absolutely. A perfect example is when I hired somebody to do my taxes this year because I've
Yeah.
always done them myself up until this year. And then I was like, I'm going to get somebody to do it this year because that's what they do,
Mhm.
and they don't make speaker reviews or speaker measurements. If they wanted to, they would ask me that. She never would. She asked what I do for the YouTube, and I explained it to her. She's like, "Oh, that's kind of neat." And then I could tell she's like, "This is the weirdest dude ever." But whatever. But she did actually have a client that makes his living from YouTube, which was good for me because then she was kind of aware of like, how to allocate the YouTube money or whatever she needed to do to help me offset some of my costs. But
So
anyway.
Juan asked, if you have YouTube Premium ad free, do you guys still get revenue from my watch? Yes, we do.
Do we? I did not know that.
It shows up as a separate section in ad revenue. How much you get from people with YouTube Premium?
That's what. Okay. I thought maybe that was like somebody who signed up, but I didn't. I wasn't. So is that like shared between? How does that work?
Well, hold on. You don't have YouTube Premium?
So I actually watch your ads. When I said I watch these videos,
what ads come up?
I let the audio advice a lot. Actually,
really?
Yeah, audio advice a lot.
That's a good.
Yeah, which is really funny. Yeah, it's really funny because right. Yeah, and then you'll be like, "Man, this video is sponsored by Audio Advice." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit. I just saw their ad."
Hey, that's relevant though. That's good.
It is. No, it is good.
Weird ones though. Like, I'm just kind of curious what YouTube thinks is associated with.
I can't think. You know what? So what's really funny for me is when my first. So I'm a big Disney nerd, and then there's also a theme that we used to sing at O'Reilly's. We used to always sing the O'Reilly's Auto Parts theme. Auto Parts. Yeah. So at work we like one person would sing it, the other one would piggyback. So no joke, the first two commercials for one of my videos that I saw on one of my own videos when I began monetizing was Disney was the first one and O'Reilly Auto Parts was the next one. I was like, dude, they're watching me.
I guess it's interesting because it tells you what kind of people watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it's something related to what people.
I know that they can be targeted, so
you know way more about Rolex and Oro.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know anything about Rolex.
When you asked Greg Timbers, like, so what kind of setup you have? You like a Atmos, Oro, kind of.
Yeah. Do you like that?
Atmos. I was like, come on.
I was trying to throw you a bone.
Come on.
See, man, I got my friends back even when they're not even around.
Yes. Is there a question here? Aaron, do you need an external crossover for your cinema speakers, or do they have crossover built in? Do you need a JBL Cinema processor, or can you use an AVR?
I think it depends on what specific speaker you're talking about here. So I would probably need more specific.
I think you're talking about maybe your speakers.
Oh, on my speakers?
Your speakers.
Yeah, so I'm using a mini DSP. I was using a Rane RPM 88, which is like a pro audio DSP. But they discontinued that. I want to say maybe around like 2010. I don't know, maybe plus or minus a few years. And they quit supporting the software, and you could only run it on XP. And so I quit using that. I sold off. I had 3 of them. I sold them all off. They were awesome. And then I ran the crossovers just off of the Crown amps that I'm using for a while. And then I got the mini DSP. Which one is it, Joe? The DDRC 88A.
Okay.
So 8 channels out, 8 channels in, 8 channels out. Running active 2-way for the front 3 speakers, the LCR. And the mini DSP does all that. I manually set some crossovers up, and then I'll let Direct Live run the rest. And then, that's it. But for my surround sound speakers, that is ran off the Denon AVR for power.
Huh. So you are using Direct.
I am using Direct.
Okay. Do you adjust
the curve at all as well?
Do you use the curve that it shows you?
Yeah, the one, the basic one in, well, so it depends. So sometimes when I measure speakers, I want to see what kind of EQ I can apply to them on the Klippel, and then measure the anechoic response with the EQ. So right now, I just measured some speakers. Actually, they're clips. Those are RPM 2s.
Oh, you got them first?
No, I bought them.
Oh,
so there's a story with that. Great. Yeah, there's a story with that. Anyway, maybe we'll come back around to it. Mm-hmm. So when I'm doing that, I bring the mini DSP downstairs in the garage, and then I hook everything back up to my Denon, and then just let that do the EQ. So right now, the Denon is doing the Odyssey EQ.
All right. I'm curious. Here's what I want to know from you. I want to know what you think of what it does automatically. You don't have to say it publicly. I'm just like in private. Maybe you can. You think Direct? It's doing a good? No. Odyssey.
Odyssey? No. Yeah, Direct's way better.
Okay. I just want to know.
In my opinion.
like a before and after measurement, and then you see what it does, and then
Man, I'll be honest with
curious
you.
to know what you
I'm
think.
not sure that I've ever actually done that. I
Okay.
think when it comes to home theater, I'm kind of lazy. I just set up my speakers and hope for the best.
Mhm.
So, yeah. But for
Oh,
the car, I've been running direct for 4 or so years now, and I
oh,
love it.
do that.
I mean, it's some weird stuff in the mid bass area that it doesn't seem to do as well with,
Mm.
and I've told them about that. But for the most part, I really like it.
Is it that it's too extreme of an EQ, like it's not expecting to have to do that
No,
sort of thing, or just
I think what it is that it's so in a car, symmetry wise, if you move from the left seat to the right seat, you basically get the opposite response on the mid
yeah.
bass. Um, and I think the problem is that when they or when Direct Live runs a sweep, it's single speaker or single side at a time only. And I think that if you were to go in and basically like Y connect into, well, am I saying it backwards? Basically bridge down the mid bass on left and right and have it
Mhm.
play both speakers at the same time, I think it would do better. Because the thing is, when they're playing one by themselves, there's a lot of things that looks like it needs correcting. But when it's both of them together, they kind of fill in each other and they make a really good
I
setup,
get it.
right? In
I
a
get it.
pair. And I think that's the problem with the rack is that it's trying to do each one individually, and it really needs to just do them the same when it's mid bass.
Some overcorrection,
Yeah,
over or under, maybe.
yeah. I mean, you can get in, you can definitely hear phase nulls,
Mhm.
like stuff just pulling straight to where the woofers are and the mid ranges and stuff. But once you get out of like 400 hertz in the
Yeah.
car, everything is good. You know.
I've been doing something recently on actually, I did it, I think for the first time in my most recent video that I think you might like, you might appreciate. It's a little technical, but I thought it was a good idea. So, every speaker has its own frequency response that, it's just a natural thing, right? They're
Right.
never perfect, right? And so what I did was I took the frequency response of this speaker that I'm reviewing or I just reviewed, and I applied it to pink noise. So at pink noise, I applied that frequency response on top of it,
Hmm.
including like how it rolls off. And I
Yeah.
said, listen on some pretty decent headphones with some good range and hopefully neutral, and listen to the pink noise and then what it does to the pink noise to kind of give you a slight idea. Like, oh, okay, I get which frequencies were changed.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
And so yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, and you can apply it to the music too. So I had some music, and then I applied that curve to like music. It's not perfect because, of course, your headphones have to be perfect to get an exact thing, but I think it's a good relative thing.
Yeah.
Get a
No,
relative idea.
I think that's a good way to go about it, just to kind of give people an idea of what's happening.
Hmm.
So,
So this one was interesting because it sounds brighter, right? Um, no, I guess a pink noise with no EQ or perfect pink noise. And
yeah,
then when I used the frequency response of the speaker, it sounded brighter. But when you look at the frequency response of that actual speaker, it's just in around the 1 kilohertz region. It has a bump, and the rest
right.
is the treble is actually recessed,
Interesting.
right? And so you would think, okay, like generally, like if you look at it, it's like, oh, it's recessed, right? But it's that 1 kilohertz that sticks out that to me like says, "Oh, that's brighter." So
Yeah,
my initial reaction was that it was, but then when you really like listen and look at it, like, oh, okay, it's the higher frequencies. I think when people say something is bright, I think it's they might be surprised how low in frequency it is.
yeah. I agree with you, and I think that's a perfect example of why subjective only can be problematic, is because
Mhm.
different things mean different terms mean different things to different people. So bright to me, I could describe it as bright, and then it could be 2 to 4, or it could be 8 to 12. It's just and it's all relative too. Like it's how the mid range is relative to the treble. Like it could have an elevated bass boost, but some people
Mhm.
say, oh, it's too bassy, and then other people say, well, there's not enough mid range. So
Yeah.
it's just and it's how you define it, what you pick out.
I mean, if you really wanted to screw up a frequency response, you could bump up like like certain ranges,
Yeah,
right? Like really screw it up, and it would sound completely different based on which areas you bumped up,
right.
right? So
yeah, and you may not even realize, if you ask somebody, where do you think it sounds different? They may not say where you changed it. They may say somewhere else because it's relative to what they were hearing before. So, very
circling
interesting.
back to what we said earlier, we kind of were talking about how some people are very, they're using these random words when they're describing speakers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or not random, but just very, I don't know. I guess they feel like they're being descriptive. And
Some of them
Angela,
are good, but yeah.
well, Angela last night, she said, what does it mean for a speaker to be warm, right?
Yeah.
And I guess she saw it on somebody's LinkedIn profile. She kind of, whatever, said that the company said that about their speakers. And I was like, I don't know. Warm, I would say, is like maybe a downward tilt, right? So
Mm-hmm.
more bass than treble. I don't know if it's more mid range than treble. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly where it is, but I think that's kind of what I think
That's what I
people
would
would
describe it
say.
as. And
But
most
then
of the time, that's what people describe it as.
I started really thinking about it. Like I was joking. I'm like, I don't know, some audio reviewer was probably drunk, drinking some whiskey, and it was cold, and he was like by a fireplace, and he had a blanket around him, and because like he was listening to the speakers, the blanket was absorbing all kinds of the high frequencies, and like, oh man, these speakers sound warm.
These speakers are warm. That could be it.
That's probably
That's
like that
probably
guy
it.
came up with it, right?
I think that's probably the most realistic explanation.
That's
Yeah.
But then, so that was the joke one, right? And then I really started like, okay, let me give her a real answer, right?
Right.
And then I said, okay, well, think of like wood instruments versus like I don't know, metal instruments, like it's a cymbal and how it rings, like tss, right?
Right.
Versus a wood instrument, you don't expect that. So I think it has to do with maybe how damped it is,
Could
right?
be.
And then you think of the properties of wood, let's say, right? So it's a insulator. It doesn't conduct, hot or cold like a metal does, right? So I'm like, it's not horrible. It's not a horrible way to describe a
You're
sound.
you're tracking it back all the way to the beginning, man.
I'm just saying though,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what warm
It
is
could
like, more
be.
like a wood instrument, right? Versus a metallic. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Is it really that it's bright, or is it how it resonates?
Right. And there's all the other ones that go along with it. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. But I generally have heard warm described as a more subdued top end relative to the mid range area. Like the
Mhm,
mid range is more full. But then, what mid range are you talking about? So I'd be talking like 300 to 500 hertz, like kind of right
mhm.
in that area is generally, but I don't know.
I think
Depends
it's
on who
just
you ask, I
interesting.
suppose.
I think it's just interesting because I think there might. I used to just kind of make fun of that, but then I was like, you know what? Maybe there is an art to that. Let's say you have the measurements. How do you
Right.
communicate 1 kilohertz to a guy who doesn't know anything about measurements? What is 1 kilohertz to him?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of funny. The interactive EQ
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
So that's one of my notes. I've got like 30 different things in my iPhone notes that one of these days I want to get around to making a video for it. But that's one
Interactive.
of them. Just bringing up that website. Hey, when I talk about frequencies, go and look at this thing, or go and Google EQ frequencies for mastering engineers, that kind of stuff. It gives you, this is what people in the industry say.
1 kilohertz. Whack is what it says.
Whack.
Whack and honk.
It actually says
Piccolo.
whack.
WHACK.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like WACK.
Penny.
Like that's whack, man.
I mean, this is the interactive one that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So just in case
I
people are
believe
like, what
you.
is this guy talking about?
Honking. Yeah.
This one, right?
1 to 2 can be tinny. Yeah.
This is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I love that site, man.
Okay, so
I go to that for
you guys said
myself.
what's 1 kilohertz? So 1 kilohertz,
And depends on the
whack,
instrument too.
honk.
Yeah. So, if you're talking about somebody's playing a guitar, I actually just used this the other day when I was trying to find a good way to describe like a glaring sound that I was hearing in a 2 to 3K region.
Mhm.
So I went to the guitar, I think it was, and I think I looked around that area and I think I actually found that they use glare or something. I can't remember what word it was, or maybe I'm just making that up right off the top right now, but presence, I don't think so. Anyway,
Yeah, so I guess my whole point is there is an art to that, right? So maybe I shouldn't make fun of that so much because it is hard to describe it to somebody who doesn't know.
Right? Yeah, but I think some of them. I wish I could remember there was 2 words in back-to-back sentences that he used, and I was thinking, "Good Lord, like what does that even mean?" That it means, and this is me trying to be open to it. I'm like, that doesn't help anybody at all. That means nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would just be good in combination with the graphs, though. To me, it's always it's always the combination. And this, what kind of struck a chord with me is when you were interviewing Greg Timbers, and he was saying, you know what, the engineers do what they do, the marketers do what they do, right?
Right.
And in order to have a good company, you have to have both. Like if it was just engineering, they might not sell a bunch. If it's just marketing, they would be selling snake oil or whatever garbage, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be a combination of both. And so I kind of thought about that as far as like objective measurements, engineering, right?
Yeah.
These words, marketing. But maybe it's the combination is what you need.
Yeah,
here's
no,
the objective,
I
but
agree.
Here's how to relate to it,
I agree. I don't think that you should be steadfast in either. Well, maybe steadfast isn't the word, like too staunch in either, you need a good compliment, I think, especially when you're trying to my goal is to try to get people to understand that the measurements are important.
Mhm.
So I don't want to just say, here's a measurement, this speaker's good, you're done. I want to try to make it relatable, so people can kind of, oh, okay, based off of this experience I've had, I think I understand what he's saying. That's kind of the goal. Because the last thing we want to do, in the hobby is alienate people, like, oh, well, this guy's only subjective or this guy's only objective, so we can't watch him. Like that's really not the goal. But anyway, I don't know. So I saw this
well, go ahead.
You got it. Oh, just real fast. Sorry. He came back and asked a question. Do cinema speakers work good for home use? Yes. Sorry. I'm looking for it. He specifically asked if I was running it off of my AVR, but now I can't find it. So
like certain things like that you described about your speakers actually told me a lot about the speaker. Like you're like, man, these amps don't have a chance because the compression horn is so sensitive.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna pick up all kinds of hits. I'm like, oh, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah,
that's how sensitive they are because I have these IEMs are so I don't know. I think they're low resistance. That everything I plug them into has like some sort of hiss, right?
You're picking up everything. Yeah, it's annoying too, man. Like that's the trade off with high sensitivity stuff is that there's any noise in that system, it's just going to get amplified, especially when you're sitting so close to the speaker like you are in a home theater. Because I'm actually using theater speakers. You're supposed to be sitting 30 feet away or more.
I have to plug in this.
Is that
in between?
Oh, so, yeah.
And there's like a little switch to make it higher resistance.
Higher low. Do I think 4305s are worth the asking price? I was kind of hoping they would favor width over depth for my near field. So usually when a speaker is good, it's hard for me to say like, yeah, it has this value. I think that's more personal. It's easy for me to say it when a speaker is bad, because if it costs a lot of money, then it's like, well, it's a crappy speaker, so heck no. Or it's not very expensive, but it's still garbage, and there's stuff that's better than it for the price. But like something the 4305, would I pay $2,200 for it? No. Why? Because it's a small speaker and I don't have use for small speakers in my house. But would somebody else enjoy that speaker? Absolutely. And that's the one thing I find too, is a lot of people, living in America. If anybody can tell me who sings it, I'll give you a high five in person one day. Y'all should be able to get that really fast too, by the way. We have oh, you don't know it? All right, we'll come back.
I mean, that's probably from a Eddie Murphy movie, right? No,
dude, you're extremely close, but you're not, which is really funny about that. Okay. So,
that's Coming to America.
Yeah, Living in America was the song. So I want to see if anybody can get it. Surely somebody knows what that's from.
Somebody knows.
I forgot where I was at with this. Oh, what I see a lot of times is people who are from most of the time like more metro areas. So maybe not just America, but more metropolitan areas where space is a premium. they really appreciate seeing reviews for smaller speakers. You know, the Arundel speakers that I reviewed, the smaller ones, the 1961s, a lot of people that enjoy those speakers and, you know, reacted positively to that review are people who live in smaller homes that don't have a lot of space. So yes, Rocky Four.
Is that
So
when
here's
Apollo comes in?
Yes. So the funny thing about that, you saying Eddie Murphy, is in that song, he says, Eddie Murphy, eat your heart out. And the reason he says that is because Eddie Murphy was making fun of him as part of his act, his comedy routine, right? So he even did a shout out to Eddie Murphy. So if you listen to it about maybe
James
3/4 of the way
Brown.
through.
There it is.
Yep. He even says it. So
I do remember him coming in on the.
yeah, man. They like lowered him down on what was it, lower him down on a platform, or was it like a scissor lift? I can't remember now.
Is he wearing the like US flag shorts?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
him? Okay.
He's got the top hat.
Yeah, okay.
Too. Yeah.
I remember.
And James Brown's actually singing in it. Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff, man.
Well, there was another question here I saw. I should have started. Somebody asked like, what's a house curve? Something like that. Where is it?
What's a house curve?
What's a house curve?
One thing I'll say for the 4305s real fast, kind of going back to this while I was thinking about it, is I think the speaker looks really cool and it has a lot of input output options. So, yeah, I think a lot of people would enjoy it, but I personally wouldn't buy it just because I don't have a need for a smaller speaker. I prefer a larger speaker, and I would use that in my personal use. But that's me.
All right. What's a house curve? House curve. I think, man. Why don't you go? Why don't you go? Because
I think it's just the frequency response that you're trying to. A target curve is what it's also called. At least in our realm of audio, a house curve can mean different things than other outside of like home theater, home audio. But in what we do, it's like a target curve that you would try to hit, make your frequency response react a certain way, to sound a certain way in your room. But house curves can be dangerous. So that maybe would be a more long-winded topic, I think. But yeah.
Because they don't know what your house is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, really, because I think if you want to talk about house curves and kind of the concern I have with a lot of them, or just house curves in general, is if you don't know your speaker's dispersion and you try to target a house curve that maybe your speaker doesn't want to do naturally, then you have to start EQing the speaker to a lot of range, I guess, to make it hit this target curve. And maybe your speaker just, I'm not saying that EQing is bad, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that some cases you might try to hit a target curve that is so far beyond what your speakers are really going to be good at hitting, particularly like in the higher frequency where, let's say, for example, you have, and nobody should ever have this, but let's say, for example, you have a flat house curve in room, which never want to do that, but this is an extreme example. Mm-hmm. And then you have a speaker with a very narrow radiation pattern and even a falling off on axis response, which means that in your seat, you would have a really tilted frequency response going lower in SPL as you get higher in frequency, right? So if you want to take that tilt and you want to flatten it out, then you're either going to have to cut off a lot of bass, which I don't think your processor is probably going to do too much of that, or you're going to boost a lot of the highs. And the problem with boosting a lot of the highs is you're going to introduce a lot of extra power to those speakers, and they may not take well to it. So you're going to be driving yourself into compression and distortion earlier. That's an extreme example, and I'm not saying that that's something that most people are going to run into, but that kind of gives you an idea of why I say that house curves generically maybe not the best idea. What do you do about that? I think you come to Joe or I or Amir or Audioholics or Soundstage Network, anybody who provides measurements on and off axis for a speaker, to get an idea of what it's going to do in your room. And then you have a better idea of, hey, is this target curve really make sense for the speaker that I'm using? And then we could talk about the low end too, but maybe I've spoken enough.
This is a great question. I like this question just because I think it makes sense. If you're just kind of new to this, you're like, all right, well, tell me what the speakers should sound like in my room. Right. And let me make the speakers do that, and I should have good sound, right? Now, let me take it to an extreme example, right? So a lot of people like to use the Harman target curve, right? How would that Harman target curve sound if you were to use that as your target curve in your car? Would it sound good?
Probably not. Probably not. No, it probably sound treble heavy.
or not
I think it
good?
might be treble heavy. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, because I've tried it, right, and it didn't sound good.
Yeah,
And it's because it's a completely different room. I'm just using an
yeah,
extreme example that you can't
yeah.
just say this is the target curve, right? Because it depends on how far are you, where are the speakers aimed, what kind of speakers, is it reflective? What is your room like? And so there is no particular house curve. There's no correct house curve.
I'm writing this topic down because this will make a good video. I'll
Yeah.
just add this to the pile of videos that I want to talk about at some point, or maybe you and I can join
Yeah,
on
I
the
would love
live
to.
stream sometime and I'll just throw up a few estimated in and we can just kind of talk about it. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, and so for the most part, though, the Harman target curve for a living room, something like that, is not terrible. Like if you're gonna guess, it's not a terrible place to start.
Yeah,
I would just say if you're really trying to get the correct answer, though, right? So
yeah,
it'll get you in the ballpark. It's much better than trying to make it flat. Let's just say.
right.
But
Well,
if
and
you
then
really
like
want it good, then you can't just use any house curve, and you know,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the direct comes with a couple different ones as well, which I don't remember what they are anymore, but
They changed it. They changed it.
they change them.
Recently. So before it used to just be like a downward slope, right? It was kind of like just a line, right?
Well, I was thinking they had 3 when I got mine, I think, and one had a little bit more bass. It seemed like I'm trying to recall, but anyway,
Mm.
that's neither here nor there. It sounds like they've changed their options here.
Yeah,
Well,
the new one.
so by default it loads up one, but I think what I'm trying to say is they had like 3 files that you could load in as a target curve option, at least for the mini DSP, CDSP that I
y-
had.
Yeah, they're all based kind of off like the Harman
Okay.
target, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
the new one looks at your current response. It looks at the natural response in your
Good.
room, and it uses that as a starting point, and then you can go up or down from that starting point. So I'm like, oh,
Well,
okay, that's closer.
that
You're
makes a
getting
lot
much
more
closer.
sense.
Yeah.
That
So.
jives with kind of what we're saying too. I mean,
Mhm.
you should use kind of what your speakers are already doing naturally rather than forcing them to do something that they may not take well too.
I saw that you posted on your channel like asking how many people are interested in DSP. How did that go?
Let me go look.
Yeah.
And the reason I think some people may have been confused, and I was kind of vague. I guess I should have been specific
Mm.
while I was asking, but my thought was, I can with the anechoic data, I can just drop it into REW real quick and just get an on-axis EQ recommendation. And I was just wondering if do people care about that, and then if they did, then maybe I would also take the extra time to measure the speaker with that EQ curve and just show them this is the potential that you have.
Here, I'll
Um,
share it here. So I have not voted because everybody knows. I think most of the people here know what I would vote on.
yeah.
Let's just do it now.
What is it?
Do you use manual DSP, mini DSP, to equalize your speakers? What does this mean again? This is like a super nerdy thing.
Like in addition to, or other than? Let me look it up. I don't know what the actual
That's a
real
very tool thing
one
to
of those
say.
things I've been using. And others. There we go. That's what it
And
means.
others.
And
Okay.
others. I
Okay.
liked it more than etc. I figured I'd use etc. too many times that day.
Smart people, man.
Nah, man, I'm just
Telling
trying to
you.
look smart. That's all.
I'm not talking about typical room corrections such as Odyssey Dirac. In other words, if I provide you some EQ settings for a mini DSP up to 9 bands of EQ to try, would you be able to or interested?
Yeah.
727 votes. That's a lot. I'm gonna have to say yes to that. Okay, there it is. 76
Okay.
comments too. That's a lot.
That's interesting. Yeah. What's funny is when I first started it, I checked a couple hours later and it was about 45, 55. And I thought, well, that doesn't help. So,
So yes,
okay.
I think
That's
that's a
cool.
cool idea.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really take much extra for me to do it. Oh, I mean, it does, but it's not a big deal. I've already got the mini DSP down there, but really what that means is that I probably wind up having to buy a second mini DSP just to stay downstairs
Get the
in the
flex.
garage. I might. I don't know if I need it though. I just need something with like non-bands. So the HD, the regular one, wouldn't be so
Hmm.
expensive. That's what patrons are
Um,
for. They hook me up.
so yeah, I'll tell you something funny I did over the weekend. I kind of posted on Instagram. Let me see if I could bring that up. Uh, let's see here. So share. So on Instagram, it was my daughter's 4th birthday, so we had it at the park. And I've had this speaker. Right? It's like a PA speaker, but it's Bluetooth,
Oh
and it
yeah, I
runs
saw
on
your review for
batteries.
that
Like,
too.
what's that?
See, I watched that review too. You were out in the
Oh,
park.
yeah.
See?
So these are cool, right? I mean, they last a long time, and I think there's like 210s and then a horn, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I used equalizer APO, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I took the measurement of this, and then I made it go down to 20 hertz because I don't need it to play loud. We're at the park, right? And it's
Right.
my daughter's 4th birthday. I'm not gonna be bumping these, you know.
Yeah.
So I equalized this, and they sounded really good. You know, it's just something that
Yeah.
you can do with DSP, and it sounded way better. Like if I turned it on and off, it sounded way better than not having DSP on them. Just show you how crazy I am. 4th
Yeah.
birthday, nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's all
Except for
Disney music.
some random dude walking by, be like, "Man, did you hear that 20 hertz?"
But yeah,
Sick.
we were bumping Encanto for sure.
Hey man, that's a good one. We don't talk about Bruno.
Yep. Let's see here. A few things we got to get out of the way. If you have any questions you definitely want answered, super chats are always welcome. That goes to Tim. It goes to the stuff that it costs to run this whole thing. And we have audio only version of the podcast, anchor.fm/daily HiFi. And after show, we'll have our after show. Just go to patreon.com/daily HiFi. And that supports some of the stuff that we do. And that's that. What
Check
else?
This one out. Already got Top Gun tickets. I've got for the local Dolby Cinema. So I don't usually buy mine in advance because I don't really have to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely planning on seeing that this weekend. Every day at work. It's like the past, I don't know, midweek last week. Last week I was just sitting there, right? I work in like a cube farm. And I work with really good people. We're all roughly around the same age, And I just yell out, I was like, "Guess what, guys?" And they're all like, "What?" They thought I was going to be talking about something work. I was like, 10 more days until Top Gun 2. They're like, "Oh, man."
Dude, I've been hearing from like the critics that it's like an excellent movie. Like usually they're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But it seems like, I don't know. I'm getting the feeling that it's really good.
Well, I'm trying to stay away from the hype. Yeah, look, even your wifey, Obi-Wan and Stranger Things 4 or season 4 starts this Friday too. So this weekend's going to be off the chain, man. I can't wait.
Man. Yeah, you saw my watch. I got a watch just for Top Gun. It's the watch that he's been wearing, So
y'all gonna see it opening night or just during the weekend or?
I don't know.
Just whenever you that out.
With kids, it's just whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm taking my daughter to see it. I showed her the first one yesterday. So
I might have to watch the old school ones. Have you watched the old ones recently?
We watched the first Top Gun yesterday again. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I watched it with her yesterday.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So she could get ready because I'm gonna get her to go with me to see it. I don't want to go by myself. I'd feel weird. All right, is there a website where speaker measurements are published centrally? Yeah, I have them myself. No, hold on. A lot of us, me and Amir, will provide Pierre. Gosh, what's his website? Homeboy's in here. He could probably remember too. 2034. Your data 2034. Let me see if I can.
So it's just like you're talking about a huge database, or I could just.
Yeah. So
I would love to have a database where I could just say, I want a bookshelf speaker that can play to 35 hertz. Show me what's there, and then I want it to be under this price point. Like, narrow it down. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
So what I do is I send my data to Pierre. He's in France, I believe, and Amir does the same, or I guess Amir posts his data, and then Pierre downloads that as well. And once Pierre gets the data, I'll show you what I'm talking about here because it'll be easier just to show somebody. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So this is where Pierre posts all the data to, and then he'll put a picture up there. He'll put a picture of the Sean Olive score, which that's a topic that deserves its own thing.
I've never seen this. What is the website? Oh,
it's great. It's Pierre Albert AUBERT GitHub. Here, I'm just going to paste it. This is way too much. Okay. But the main thing is that you can search, but then you can also do you can sort. So you can say,
"That is awesome." How come not? I mean, I don't know about this. This is the first time I've seen this.
I don't know. When I talked to Sean Olive sometime last year, I mentioned this website to him. Let me throw this up in the
That's
chat real
super
fast.
cool.
And then if anybody wants to go check it out, they can. But that's a great website. Pierre does a really good job. I send him the data almost as soon as I get done measuring something most of the time, unless I just forget. I got to send him a couple new ones actually.
Wow.
But he'll update it. So he'll take that raw data, he'll update it, and then he will go into the site. And let me see if I can give you guys an example here.
GitHub.io.
Yeah. So he will take the raw data and then he'll kind of replicate what Amir and I do. I mean, honestly, it is kind of a copy, but he does some extra stuff with it as well. So you can see he takes the data, puts it in the C2034 comp format, and then he provides this kind of window of linearity, all the normal stuff. But he also, which I think is cool, is he has with EQ, right? So
Yeah.
with EQ, without EQ, and then direct comparisons. You can compare speakers directly, all sorts of prices. Just, I mean, tons of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So is there a, like, I don't know how do you put a numerical value on flatness? Because that's kind
of Sean Olive came up with. Are we talking about like the preference score?
Well, it's saying here from 300 hertz to 10 kilohertz, right? So it's just from that range. How far does it deviate? I mean, how does that work?
Oh, you're talking about this?
Like it says flatness plus or minus 1.7 dB.
Flatness.
Like, what if it's all over the place? Like, what if it's constantly up and down, but like only goes plus or minus 1.7? Like, that's still not good, right? Like, just because,
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Let me show you. I'm sure he probably does it the same way I do. So I'll just give an example real fast. I'll get there eventually. And let's see. I'll have to change the.
I wonder if it could be like calculated in some kind of area under the curve, another area over, and then what is that number?
So I'm taking the average sensitivity over a range, and the range I'm taking is 300 hertz to 3 kilohertz, and then I'm saying the deviation of the speaker is from a certain range. Up here, I say it's minus 3.7 to plus about 2.7, and that's from 80 hertz to 16 kilohertz. And that's how I calculate it. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I see. So I see that, right? But is there a numerical value they can say this is this amount of flatness, right?
Right. You want like standard deviation. It sounds like
I think
this is the average, and then this is the standard deviation from that, right? Yeah, I don't do that.
Right. Okay. While you have this up on the screen,
yeah.
When you calculate the plus or minus 3 dB point, minus, I should say minus, right? So the F3, the minus 3 dB point, is it starting from the point, like at the peak of where the bass starts? Like, or is it the center of the average between 300 hertz and
3 kilohertz?
Yeah, 3 kilohertz.
That's what it is. And that's why I try to draw this little dash line to show you, like, the dash line represents the mean sensitivity, and then these dash lines, it probably doesn't show up that well on the screen right now, but that's what they represent, is these 2 points are taken based on the average sensitivity in the mid-range, right? So if you have a boost here and it extends out, then obviously that F3 point would be different. Some speakers have a high Q where they boost up through here, and then they fall off a lot more rapidly, so that's kind of what I'm targeting there.
Well, it's more because, like, I was looking at some old measurements of some subwoofers that I did, and I'm like, oh, they do some weird stuff to make it look like it measures better or whatever, or the 3 dB point is down from this huge bump, let's say. But I can't do from 300 hertz to 3 kilohertz. So what is the area? What's the range for a subwoofer, right?
Yeah, I think
that's my question. Should I be measuring from the peak here, or what average?
Well, yeah, I think that's personal. I think that's up to you to decide. And you could say pretty much anything as long as it's reasonable, it would be okay. I think for a subwoofer, if you're going to be generally talking about subwoofers that don't have an issue getting down to 30, then I would say make it 30 to 80 hertz will be your mean.
Okay.
But you know, like if you know that you're going to be testing, like let's say you're a dude and your main thing is like cheap budget speakers, and you're going to be testing $100 subwoofers, then you're probably going to be lucky to get down to 30. So I would change that range from like 50 to 100. You know, and then your focus would be on how quickly does it roll off, because it's probably going to be F3 at like 40 hertz or something.
I think it's just tricky because F3 sounds like a specific number, right? Like this is the F3, and I don't know, I guess, what the standard is. Like where do you start measuring from? If we're gonna say
Yeah.
F3 is the number that we're looking at for a sub, where are we starting to measure from?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I would probably say 30 to 100 hertz, because most subwoofers should not have a problem getting flat to 30 anechoic, um, within reason.
Okay.
So I would probably set it there. You know, if you're talking about 12, 15-inch subwoofers, but if you're talking about 10-inch subwoofers that are on Amazon, then they'd be lucky to get 40 hertz. So then you might have to change things. So I would, and you could even rate it both ways. To me, and this is the same thing we do at work, right? Like no matter what you're doing, as long as it's reasonable and you tell people, and that way somebody else can say, all right, he's told me how he's calculating it. So
yeah, I guess I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. In the last review, I'm like, I'll show you both ways. So
yeah,
I don't know which one.
Why not do it both ways? I don't personally. I'm not. If anybody has a bone to pick about something like that, then they're worried about the wrong stuff in life. Honestly,
it
man.
It was kind of a big difference on this particular subwoofer that I was looking at. It was like the monolith, not the SVS 3000 micro, like the dual 8s. And so if I did it from the peak, the F3 would be somewhere like, I don't know, like 28, 29, 30 hertz, like, but if I did it from the mean, then it was 23. And so like 23 and 30 is a big difference. And
right. Yeah,
you know what I
think
mean? It seems very different to say, oh, F3 is 30. Like, oh, that doesn't sound good.
well, here's the other thing too, is some larger woofers have very high inductance. So once they hit like 80 hertz on the top end, they're rolling off on the top end pretty quick too. So it might have a low F3, in general, but depending on how you're taking that mean sensitivity, if you're saying 50 or 30 to 100 hertz or something like that, then that's going to be different than it would be if you were doing 30 to 50 hertz. So you're talking about such a small bandwidth that it's hard, I think, to narrow it down. Maybe the best thing to do would be 50 to 80, average 50 to 80, done. Because I expect large subwoofers might have high inductance, so they're going to start rolling off on the top end early. Smaller subwoofers are going to be lucky to hit 40 hertz, so that's really going to throw off the mean if I make it go down to 30 for the mean. So, like I said, but as long as you just tell people, hey, this is how I'm calculating it, and if you want to calculate a different way, be my guest.
Yeah, those are the ones where I usually like, I don't know. I think Aaron has a review. If you want the measurements, go over there.
Yeah, I just, again,
these are the measurements.
Whatever makes sense. Whatever makes sense. It doesn't have to be perfect, man. As long as you're telling people what you're doing, they can figure it out.
What else? Anything else in the chat here that you want to call out? What is homeboy saying over here? Won't let me post the link, but it is in his signature. Okay.
Yeah, YouTube is terrible about links, man.
Yeah,
unless one of us post it. Unless it used to hide my links when I would reply with links to comments that people left me in my own videos.
In your own video?
Yeah, and I never figured out why it wasn't publishing those links, and I just gave up. But yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Any other questions here? We can take a call too if you want. I like calls.
Yeah, that's fine. How did the Focal 1000 sound? I'm guessing that's to me. You haven't done any Focal.
I've never. No.
Okay, so that's probably me. They're a no-go. And that's pretty much it. I do have a video coming out on it. I filmed it 2 weeks ago. It's been sitting on Patreon for a while now. But I keep coming up with better stuff that I'm more personally interested in getting out there. So that video just keeps taking a backseat over and over. But I will say that I tested a Revel and a Kef, and both of them were good. The Focal, the Martin Logan, and the B&W were all very, very underwhelming. Joe's seen the video. You've watched all of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah.
I
was guessing beforehand. I was like, that one looks like some of them were good guesses and some were not But
the Martin Logan one really surprised me too. Yeah, the response is so all over this place that I don't honestly think that I've seen a speaker that's as non-linear as that one, and it was a wreck. I mean, it
you should start
sounded
doing
like a wreck.
awards at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Most
I could do that.
non-linear. Like, what is
Yeah,
the worst
most
measuring
non-linear. Yeah,
best measuring non
yeah,
best measuring passive speaker,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then
That's right.
best measuring. I mean, that would be a way to get around
No,
the
I
whole
mean,
best thing, right? Like
I
that's
legitimately could. Yeah, I mean, per objective data. Yeah, Chris, it is on Patreon. I posted. I think it's been honestly, I think it's been 2 weeks now. So go check that out.
interesting. What else? Any other comments here? Yeah, feel free to give us a call. We love to hear from you, and just have a good time. Don't don't get too crazy, because some of the calls, like, we get very silly, and then Tim has to go in there. He's like, should I post this?
Oh yeah,
Like,
Tristan,
yeah,
we're
we
talking
like
about
to have
you,
fun, but let's have fun and answer questions too. Questions that
Sheriff
other people are
Sheriff
interested in.
Cliff or whatever that guy's name was.
Share.
I can't remember what his name was.
Oh man.
Anyway, geez, yeah. So I've got these clips. So I'll go back on the
Yes.
story there.
Yes.
So the deal was we talked about it last week, and I had 3 or 4 people within like a couple hours post in different videos of mine. Hey, are you going to review these new clips? Andrew Robinson reviewed them, and Steve Guttenberger reviewed them. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I didn't know that they came out with something new. I had no idea. So I said, maybe. But then I sent an email out to Heather, and I said, I think Joe and I are both interested in these. When you get some, could you send a pair to me? And she's like, yeah, not a problem. Well, then like an hour after that, a patron messaged me, hey, I'm going to buy these speakers, but I'd like to have them shipped to you first to review them. Sure, I'll do that. About 2 hours after that, he messaged me back and said, oh, I didn't realize they were $760 or $750 or whatever. Thought they were the same price as the ones before them, which I think was like $650. And he said, so I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to bail out on you. And so by then my brain was like already hyped. I was like, cool, I'm going to review some clip speakers. And I was like, well, dang it, I can't go back to Heather now and say, never mind, send them back again to me. So I just ordered them. And I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll sell them to a patron or something like that, and hopefully make the difference back up in views.
Well, here's what's interesting about that,
video,
right? So
I don't know.
I asked, Heather asked, at Audio Advice. I'm like, hey, I see them do a lot of clips videos, so I assume that they have a good relationship with them. And so I'm like, hey, can you send me those? Because people are asking. And she's like, yeah, I don't know if they were not in stock or something. I'm like, man,
yeah, they weren't in stock. Yeah,
like they're not in stock, but like these reviewers already have them. That's kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I'm not that there's anything wrong with that. That's happened to me before, where they'll send me something like very early, but it's something to pay attention to, right?
Yeah,
like it's happened to me, and SVS has sent. Well, I was the first one to review the 3000 micro, and so they sent it to me early. What does that mean? Was that biased? I don't know. I'm just saying it is what it is. So
but you're honest, right? Like you tell people where it came from. So and to me, as a watcher, hey, I got the speaker from here. Okay. Or hey, this person's sponsoring my video. Okay, cool. I don't really get into that too much. Like I used to when I first started, because I was coming in like a bull in a china shop, like I'm going to wreck this YouTube and show everybody what's up. And then I was like, that's not my style. Like I can be a dick, but usually I'm not. So
I think it's just,
but yeah,
to me,
I don't really worry about it. Yeah, I don't really.
And if somebody's, if they want to pick on that, and if it's something to them, all right, well, fine. I told you, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's just one of those things where you should not that you should. I choose to just put it out there, just because.
I think you should. No, I mean, I think yeah, and for what it's worth, I don't know. I mean, because I mentioned Andrew and Steve specifically. I'm not talking about those guys. I don't know. I don't watch their videos. Nothing against them. I don't really have the time. So I don't really watch anybody's videos except for Joe's, Michael's, and Chana's. I make it a point to watch theirs, and Gene's. I like some of their stuff too. But for the most part, I just don't have the time. So having said all of that, I'm not even talking about them. I don't know anybody who's doing this stuff, but speaking personally, if I'm watching something, anything, and somebody has gotten an item for free, or they've been loaned it for review by the company or anything like that, just tell me. I probably don't care either way, but I think it's good to be on the up and up because I think your audience will begin to trust you more. You know, like it could draw some negative criticism. Some people say, "Oh, well, you got those speakers for free. Now I can't trust you." But it's like I would rather you just tell me than to do some shady backdoor stuff, right? Like,
Yeah, well, I've been, dude, I've been watching this like this trial thing, the Johnny Depp thing. I don't know, I can't get away from it, right? I find it so interesting. Just because like I think lawyers for the most part have this thing where you have to be logical, and my brain kind of works in that logical way, So like here's some information. How do you process it? How do you connect dots and stuff like that? And
right.
to me, it's similar in that there's a discovery process, right? You're supposed to bring everything like, all
Oh
right,
yeah,
here's everything.
right.
Let's
Then we
decide
figure out what we want
what
to talk
means.
about.
Well, to
Yeah,
me, my audience gets to decide, right? My job is here's everything. You decide what this
right,
means. Am
right,
I biased? Okay, if that's what you think, all right, cool. But this
right.
is all the stuff,
Yeah,
you know. I
I
think
agree.
that's important. And when you don't say, you're trying to, maybe you should legally, and you decide not to, then it gets like, what the heck? Why? Why?
Well, definitely. I mean, there are some legal ramifications to some of this stuff. Like, like you can see, I don't, not even audio, but I've seen like other things outside of audio on YouTube, and it's like, oh yeah, that person definitely got that product for free. And what's really funny is I've had companies, I won't name names ever, but
Mhm.
sometimes I wish I could. But I actually have had companies reach out to me and offer to send me stuff. And I flat out question, me and you can talk about this in
Uh,
private, but I flat out question them. Hey, I saw that so and so reviewed this. Did they get to keep it? I'm just curious. This happened last week. And
uh,
they were like, well, they told me, I said, has any other reviewers reviewed this that, has gotten to keep it? And they
mhm.
replied back to me. And this dude has like 2 or 3 million subscribers.
They
And it's a $300 little piece of junk thing. And I'm like, and he didn't say, and
he
I'm
didn't
like,
say it.
oh, so, but he did have the sponsored thing, I think, or promotion.
Oh,
So I'm like,
okay.
I guess that
Oh,
counts, but I think you still should say, and the dude could probably buy that, 3 million subs. Like, come on.
well, it's kind of funny because like I told you about that soundbox speaker, right?
Yeah.
And so I reviewed that seriously like maybe a year, 2 years ago, and I did get to keep it, obviously, right?
Right.
So I did get to keep it, but in that video, I said this is what it is. I get to keep it, whatever.
Right.
But when I posted here, I'm using it, and it could be seen as like an advertisement. I was actually just more
Oh, yeah.
advertising. Hey, I do DSP stuff. Like I'll
Yeah.
DSP anything. Like I don't care for my kids' party. I'm gonna DSP it. But then I'm like, is that an ad? Am I advertising
Hey, that's a
their
good point.
thing?
Yeah, I don't
Like I'm
know.
using the product. So it's weird because that's a long time ago. They probably don't even care about this product anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
and then sometimes I know you've run into this too. I've had the Edifier speakers when I was going to send them back. They were like, no, don't bother. Cause it literally wasn't worth their money and their trouble to have somebody take care of sending me a label and me handling the shipping and return all to them. They were like, just keep them. So I gave them away. But
I
I
gave
know
them
another
away too.
reviewer. I do know another reviewer who's reviewed them and got to keep them and he hadn't told anybody.
Uh,
Not you, but it's somebody
no,
else that we know.
I
So
gave them away though. I gave them.
I
I'm
wonder
like,
if this other reviewer gave them away to his patrons because he he says a lot of great stuff about himself, and he got some free speakers and didn't tell people about it. Anyway,
what is Paul saying here? Well, Croson's saying you think audio is bad. Fitness channels are way worse about being open. Try this new protein powder. Oh man,
oh,
yeah,
I can only imagine.
yeah.
So here's one, homeboy. Yeah, so the RPM2 finally has their sensitivity spec caveat in the spec sheet, so at least they
Ah,
publicly admit it. So I actually addressed that in the video with both of them. And for what it's worth, I'll just tell people now, the average sensitivity of the RPM 600M2 is 86 dB anechoic, as opposed to 94.5 per their spec sheet, which is
whoa,
in room half space.
that's a
So I talk
huge
about that.
difference.
Oh, it's a huge difference. Yeah,
I mean,
it's such BS that they rate them like that.
that's ELAC. That's ELAC. Oh, everybody commenting. Is my AVR going to run this?
Yeah,
Is it okay? It's
right.
that versus you can use it on a tube amp.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's
I
that's
mean,
a
I mean, homeboy's right. They tell you, but they've been doing that. They did that with the Heresy 4. They said this is how we rate the speaker because I made the comment on it back then. So it's not like they're necessarily hiding it. I just think that if people don't understand that caveat, then it doesn't really mean anything to them. They just say, "Oh, it's high sensitivity," and it's really not. It's average sensitivity for a bookshelf speaker of its size. It's pretty much right in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I want to know. Does it still have the dip at the crossover?
No. Actually, the RPM 2 is really quite nice, except for the treble is still a little bit boosted. If you're interested,
dip. That's not a clip speaker.
Did I not send that?
There's no dip in the crossover.
It's actually a big difference though between the two though, in that dip. So I did.
Amazing.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mention. I actually ordered both. I ordered the V1 because I wanted to compare it against the V2. So yeah, so I'll have it. The video is more a comparison about the two, talking about is it really an upgrade? And my final takeaway from it was that the V1 is the better speaker if you have EQ, because the V1 has a little bit better horizontal response, so you can fix that dip. But if you don't, then the V2 by far, in my opinion, is the better choice, and it's worth the upgrade. If I was spending an extra $200, I'd go with the V2.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
But the other one's more EQable?
Yeah. I mean, just barely. So, yeah, the vertical response really throws both of them off. But the horizontal response on the V1 is a little bit more controlled. And I mean, just barely, right? But the V2 has a wider horizontal response by about 10 to 20 degrees, which I liked a lot more. But still, the V2 has a really good precision in imaging. So I was honestly surprised by the V2. And I think I would recommend the speaker with caveats. Like, I wouldn't necessarily aim them on axis. I would use them with the grill if you were, because the grill actually does help with that. But I would tow them off axis. You know?
What's your headline going to be? A clip speaker I don't hate? Is that?
I think I might have used that one before.
Oh, okay.
Sure. I think I just said, is it really an upgrade? Yeah. Another clip speaker I might not really hate.
Yeah.
I just wish they wouldn't do that whole sensitivity thing. And hopefully when people see this review, they'll understand, again, Klipsch isn't lying. It's just that their sensitivity spec is so out of character with the norm that it's very misleading unless people take the time to understand what that actually means. So I spent a couple minutes on it talking about that.
Well, I think they truly believe that that's how a proper way to measure. I think they believe that that's like more, I guess like more like what you're expecting to hear in your room or something like that. Yeah. I think I've heard them say that. But in that case, then if that's true, then everybody should rate it like that then.
Right. Like, yeah. And to me, that's, well, and I had some trouble with how they state it, because they say half space, comma, in room. And I'm like, okay, are they saying the half space is applied because it's already in the room? Because to me, that's two different things. What is half space?
What's half space? Yes.
Yeah. So if you take a speaker and it's floating in the air, that's full space because there's nothing surrounding it. There's no boundary. As soon as you put it on a boundary, that's half space. So the ground is a half space. And then if you put it on the ground and there's a wall next to it, then that's quarter space, right? And then if you put it in a corner, then I think that's eighth space. Yeah. So every time you add a boundary, how do you say that? Reduces the space by half, I guess. Yeah, cuts it in half. Which basically just means that anytime that you reduce or you put it near a boundary, then you increase the output by 6 dB, assuming that the speaker is perfectly omnidirectional, which is kind of a little bit of a tricky conversation. Maybe people might not care about that so much. But yeah, so
why really, would that make sense though? Like, why is that? Why would they say that that's more indicative of what you would expect a speaker to sound like in your room? Because
yeah, no, I agree. So my thing is, when they add the comma, when they say half space, I believe it's half space, comma, in room. I'd have to go double check again. That implies to me that it's two different things. So it's half space and it's in room. And I also say that because nobody puts a speaker in a room like, well, most people don't, right next to a wall. Well, yeah, and it's rear ported. So you're not going to put it right next to a wall and get, 6 dB. So I think what they're doing is they're using both of those. So half space is 6 dB, and then in room is anywhere from 3 to 6 dB, depending on the frequency, right? Because the more directivity the speaker has, the less boundary reinforcement there is. So that 3 to 6 dB, that's where that range comes in. So you're on average, I think Klipsch is about 9 dB over anechoic. And that seems to kind of hold true. I'd say anywhere maybe 6 to 9 dB. But with these two speakers, it's about 9 dB. I think it's 85 and 86 for the two of them. And their Klipsch spec is 96 and 94.5. So yeah, they're roughly 10 dB over spec.
Would this be a fair comparison to do if you said, just to try to relate this to most people's experience, right? If you had two speakers, let's say one that says it's like 85 dB sensitive, and then let's say a speaker that claims 95, right? And if you plug them into your AVR and have it set to set volume, and you measure, let's say, pink noise and take the average of that speaker and see, smooth it out 1-to-1, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
And then you take another, the 95 dB one, don't turn the volume, don't change anything, and measure it. Should that be 10 decibels up from the other one, generally speaking?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then it's not 10 dB up.
Right. Yeah. Somebody somewhere has gotten something wrong. Right. Yeah. I mean, within plus or minus a dB, I think is perfectly acceptable.
I think that's a good way for people to think about it, though, right? For the same amount of power that you're putting out, they're saying it's going to be this much louder.
Right.
That's
and what
louder, right?
3 dB is a doubling of power. So how many times does that take you? Like that's a double and a double, and almost another double, 3 doubles.
That's a lot.
Somebody else do that math for me. I can't do that math in my head. But yeah, they're basically saying a lot.
Same impedance.
Yeah, I mean, assuming everything's the same.
Yeah, because what they're saying is if it's lower impedance, then you're actually getting more power out of it.
Well, the sensitivity doesn't care about the impedance. The sensitivity has already been factored in with the impedance. So, because you're talking 2.83 volts.
So it shouldn't matter.
No. It doesn't. Yeah. So sensitivity, like if I hook up an amplifier to a speaker and measure the SPL, and I rate the sensitivity based off of whatever that SPL is, and then I hook up another speaker to that same amplifier and change nothing, and get a new SPL, then that's the new sensitivity for the other speaker. The sensitivity, that's what it is. It's already baked in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man. I always learn when you're here. I'm glad that you are as smart as you are. I know you don't think so.
I've blown up a lot of stuff. I'm blowing up a lot of stuff. So don't start pulling. I see these guys talking about amp capability. You got to be kidding me. Show me an amp that can't handle the sensitivity spec from 300 to 3 kilohertz, and I'll tell you it's a trash amp. Y'all got to be kidding me. I love you guys, but y'all are nuts.
Oh man, this upcoming month I need to start working on AV Summit stuff. So a quick plug for that. I'm changing it up. I'm going to make it more educational, like an educational platform. I've already talked to Aaron, like, hey, maybe we could do something kind of educational on this. Man. Because you can see how we geek out, right? And maybe not as many people are interested in that particular thing, but I think for the folks who are interested, they're really interested.
Yeah, I think you got to be. Yeah.
It's for smaller demographic. And so that's kind of what the focus is. And that's what our after show is about too. Our hardcore, fans are there, and we get crazy. We talk about all these details. After show, patreon.com/daily HiFi. That's where you go. Become a patron, and you can join us in the after shows that we do all the time. Yeah, we're at an hour. We didn't get any calls today, which is okay. That's fine. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you want to talk about? Any other questions that you see here? Nah. It was just us today, man. That was crazy.
I know it.
I wonder if John's okay, man. I haven't heard from him.
Yeah, that is interesting. Normally he's chimed in by now, but what else is going on? I'm trying to think.
Anything else? Because me, I'm good. I'm good for.
Yeah, no.
I'm always sticking around.
And on location. Oh, did you see that one? That's a good question. Oh, I do have a question for you. Sorry. I hope I remember to ask you.
Oh, dude, that would be awesome.
I think that would be awesome. This is why. So this kind of.
SoCal?
Well, I'll be. Maybe we should talk about that offline.
Okay.
But this summer, yeah.
Maybe we should plan that. Maybe we'll get a little, like some kind of location or something.
Yeah.
Figure out how
one location at Disneyland.
We'll figure out something. You guys can't come over to my house though. I'll tell you that.
No, that's all right. You'll just have to come over to. You'll have to come over to Disney. We'll have to meet up for lunch or something for sure while I'm out there at least one day. And I did. My wife did say she gave me the okay if I wanted to go visit the JBL place, but I don't know. We're crunched down. Our time is more constrained now, so we'll see. But what I was going to ask you was, did you see that message I sent you guys about the Audio Advice Live? I'm guessing you probably wouldn't want to fly out to that.
I'll let you mention that.
That's out in middle of August in North Carolina. So, you said I'll let you mention that. Okay, yeah. Their Audio Advice is hosting a show. Now, this is just me kind of regurgitating some of the information that I've been told. But Audio Advice is hosting a show, I guess, of sorts, kind of like Expona, in the middle of August. And if you go to live.audioadvice.com, I think is the website. I think registration may not be open yet, but it should be soon. Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina. But they've got some good names. I think JBL, maybe Rebel's going to be there as far as like reps. Yeah, Morantz, Polk, Mark Levinson, Kef is going to be there. So it's an all weekend thing. They're setting up different panels, and I was asked to be part of one of those panels with some other dudes who are going to just eclipse me in knowledge, but I'll still get to hang out and soak some stuff up. But anyway, if you are in the North Carolina area, I'm actually in Alabama. I'm 10 hours away, and I'm driving out to it. If you are out that way and you're interested, make sure you check out this site and follow Audio Advice wherever they are, I guess, for updates. And come out, man. It'll be fun. It'll be good to meet people in person rather than just talking to people online all the time.
Scruff Kingman. Is JBL still in Northridge? Yes. I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So just for what it's worth, I mentioned to Joe that I was planning on going out to California this summer with the family, and I asked somebody at JBL if it would be possible for us to maybe to get a tour. And I think he was saying he didn't know for sure, but he thought it probably would be okay. Just let him know in advance, and he would try to work something out. So,
yeah.
Cool. Oh, Riley's
cool, man. I think that's good. I think we gave some information to Tim. I think he can make some videos, those daily videos. Hopefully you guys are enjoying those. I actually watch them.
Tim does a really good job with those, man. He really does.
Happy belated birthday, by the way, to Tim.
Indeed.
It was his birthday last time, and we couldn't say anything because it was he had a surprise party, so we made a little video for him.
That's right.
So you wanted to have him on so we could say happy birthday. So, but everybody say a belated happy birthday to Tim on this and thank him for all the stuff that he does for you guys and for us.
Indeed. Everybody say happy birthday, Tim.
All right, I think that's good. I think
we should end
end these things. How do you
at O'Reilly's? Yeah. No, I think that's good. Yep.
End it with O'Reilly's
Auto Parts. Ow.
See you guys later. See you in the after show if you're a patron.
Yep. Later, y'all.
Later.